It being 7 o'clock, we'll call to order the Winona County Board. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will start our meeting with our public comment. Every citizen has the right to speak for up to 2 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. And we'll start. I think we got a young, well, I'll probably have some on the phone.
All right.
One lady that braved coming in.
Well, I felt it was important to be face-to-face.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could we turn up the volume? I'm afraid we cannot hear the individual who's speaking. Sorry.
Thank you. Yes,
Better? Okay.
yes.
Blow you out of the
That's okay.
stratosphere. I'm Amy Cordry, 26006 County Road 9. Marcia, you're my very own commissioner, and thank you for your responses, everyone, to my email over my concern of not voting on the DNR ability to access the land for chronic wasting disease samples. I understand there was some confusion. Hopefully that doesn't happen very often. And so I want to thank you for your responses. You emailed me, you responded to me. I have to tell you how I appreciate that, because I know you all have jobs other than this one. So thank you very much for considering my suggestion that you look at this again and consider allowing the DNR to gather samples on county land. We do that, and we do that because we are in a chronic wasting management area. And actually right now, if you go to the DNR website, look at the number of positives, you will see that we're close to endemic here in the Southeast. And that's now counting farm service, okay? So it's a problem. I'm glad that you're all on board with it. I appreciate it, and I would like to thank you for that. One thing I would like to add, I don't think too many of you are aware of, is that this causes a lot of discord and disagreement among neighbors. And actually, neighbors have been harassed in some very unpleasant ways who have allowed the DNR permission to come on their land. It's not actually the DNR, they hire the ag shooters to come on, okay? So I want you to be aware of that. There's been some very unpleasant things happening. And in fact, in case you're not aware of this, there has been gunfire from the road when the ag shooters have been in the vicinity in order to create a disturbance by citizens. So you can see in this day and age, when so many terrible things are happening, that what you're saying out there to your constituents, and maybe even not your constituents, is very important. Okay, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and thank you for your support.
Is there anyone else out on the phone lines that would like to address the Winona County Board?
I would.
Okay.
My name is Tova Strange. I live on Hiawatha Boulevard in Winona, Minnesota. I just wanted to say that as Community Not Cages, we appreciate the attempt to use Engage Winona, although we asked for robust feedback outside of the carceral lens because we are opposed to the new jail and the Juvenile Justice Center, and I feel that said feedback was never sought. Is the community engagement plan process open to actually learning about alternatives to jails, or is this simply another time to pitch the idea of further carceral creep to the community? If the public opposes the idea of further incarceration in this community, are you all prepared to actually move away from that? Is this actually a listening session, or is this just another way to make us feel a part of a decision-making process that we don't actually have any control over? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to address the Winona County Board? We have a little different format on our screen tonight. Usually I have a long list of participants, and I do not have that tonight. So is there anyone else wishing to address the Winona County Board? And for the third and last time, is there anyone else wishing to address the Winona County Board? Okay, not seeing or hearing anybody, we'll move on. Item 3, approval of the county board meeting minutes. County board February 9th and the closed session from February 10th.
I'll move to approve 3.1, 3.2. Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jacob, seconded by Commissioner Olson to approve the county board meeting minutes from February 9th and February 10th. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Okay, that's approved. Thank you. Item 4, acknowledge receipt of approved committee meeting minutes. And 4.1 is the Board of Adjustment from August 20th, 2020.
I'll move to acknowledge the meeting minutes for 4.1. Second.
Right, we have a motion by Commissioner Jacob, seconded by Commissioner Olson to approve the acknowledgement of the receipt of approved committee meeting minutes from the Board of Adjustment, August 20, 2020. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Okay, those are approved. Item 5, consent comments and approval of the agenda. Mr. Fritz?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Commissioner Meyer?
I have a board action, Madam Chair.
Okay, board action. Commissioner Kavesi?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Olson?
Nothing for me.
Okay, Commissioner Jacob?
I'd like to pull item 6.2.
Okay, poll 6.2, we will make that 7.0. All right, and I would like to pull 6.1 for a little more discussion on the community engagement plan. So we'll make that 7.01. And Attorney Sonman, did you have anything?
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay, all right. So with that, we have an amended agenda. Is there a motion to
I'll
approve?
move to approve the amended agenda. Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jacob, second by Commissioner Olson to approve the amended agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, that's approved. Will you read that into the record, Mr. Fritz?
I will. So consent business 6.1 and 6.2 have been pulled for further discussion. 6.3 is approved resolution for 2021 trail equipment grant, federal recreational trail program, snow sports snowmobile club. 6.4 is approved monthly resolution. 6.5 is approved agreement for 2021-2022 adult and children's mobile crisis grant cooperative. 6.3 is approved resolution for local road improvement program projects. 6.3 is approved Personnel Board of Appeals resolution. 6.8 is approved 2020 restricted and assigned reserves. And 6.9 is confirmed payment of disbursements. That concludes the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as read. Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jacob, seconded by Commissioner Olson to approve the consent business as read. We'll do any discussion. We'll do a roll call vote on this one, please. Commissioner Meyer,
Meyer votes aye.
Commissioner Kavesi. Marie, you're muted.
Did you read lips?
Kavesi votes aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Olson,
Also aye.
Commissioner Jacob,
Jacob, aye.
and Ward votes aye. So it is approved. Thank you. All right. item that was pulled, the 6.2, approve the Department of Natural Resources access to the old landfill. Commissioner Jacob.
Well, yeah, I asked to pull the item. I thought I think it was our last meeting that the DNR gave the presentation, and we asked them at that time if they were asking for to do the sniper hunt like they did the year before, and at that time the answer was no, that they weren't asking.
No, they said at the meeting that, yeah, they were interested in doing that. And then no one on the board took it up as an item to further the discussion or further to, an item to put on the next board agenda. But then when we went back and reviewed there were several questions about that whole situation. So we went back and reviewed the original request from the DNR, and there were a string of different emails and so forth. And one of the emails did request that they be allowed to, to hunt on the land, or not hunt, but cull deer on the land. So we felt it was appropriate to put it back on and get the board's official discussion of it.
So was the discussion at the meeting in parallel or different than the emails?
The agenda item only said presentation. The emails had presentation and a request to get authorization to use the land as they had the previous year. Although the authorization asked to use the land prior to when the board meeting started, so that was kind of the timing was a little off. And then the discussion at the meeting was the presentation, and then when their question came up about, well, is this a request to use the land? The gentleman from the DNR said it yes, and then at that time we had talked about whether you could talk about it at the meeting or add it to the agenda, and we said, well, if no action's taken, then there's no, you have to take an affirmative action in order to actually approve something. No affirmative action was taken at that time. So it's a little confusing, I know.
Okay, yeah, I guess I didn't understand exactly what transpired at the last meeting, but so it's clearly on the agenda tonight, and they're asking for an approval to do the sniper hunt. I asked, I believe I asked Kay Qualley at the last meeting about, or at least Kay Qualley chimed in about that we've got people out there doing Oriental bittersweet mitigation. The park, Stone Point Park, is open to the public, general public, right? Mm-hmm. I guess I feel like if I allowed the DNR to come and do a sniper hunt on my property, I would feel obligated to post or, the perimeter of my farm, make sure that everyone is safe, they're staying off the property. And I haven't heard anything from the DNR that they intended to do. These were concerns that were raised to me last year after. Yeah, I'm not asking you.
I think Kay might have some input on what was done last year in terms of safety provisions. I'm not sure exactly what we did or the DNR did to notify people that might use it. It's not generally open to the public. You can't just walk in. There's a gate down there, but the people that use the gardens and those things are there, and the interns and different people doing different county stuff. Obviously, the sheriff's range is there and all that kind of stuff. So maybe Kay could address that. We also have the gentleman from the DNR, Todd Froberg, should be on the line as well.
Is there so Kay, Commissioner Jacob, do you want Kay to answer what was done last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Kay Qualley, are you there?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair. So I'm having a little bit of audio difficulty with the computer, so just bear with me. Right?
You're coming through a little garbled on this end too. But go
Okay,
ahead.
sorry.
Or, that's okay. We'll work
Our
through it.
interns have completed their Oriental bittersweet work for the winter, which was my concern at the previous meeting. If there was going to be hunting going on for an extended period, they probably will not start their work until spring, again, a 2-year grant. So there would be a period between now and early April, mid-April, that there will not be employees, at least from planning and environmental services or interns in the park itself. If there's any members of the public hiking, just walking in, the gate is currently locked and we don't plow. So that was the input that I had at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is the park prohibited, or is the public prohibited from entering the park if you just want to go for a hike and you hike on from any direction? Like a farm that's posted is still posted. We don't have it posted.
No,
Right?
people are not prohibited from hiking there, and in fact, people do hike in that area. It's county property. You know, we haven't had the funds to develop it into the county board approved for Stone Point Park. However, people do utilize it. It's not heavily used. Some hunters walk across, they call to access private land, but not hunting on county land. So it's fairly minimally used, but occasionally used. Thank you.
If someone wanted to go snowshoeing or cross-country skiing, do they need to ask any permission, or can they just go out there and do that?
We don't get permission from county residents. You know, it is a park of record in the comprehensive plan. The only thing we ask is that if hunters are accessing private property, that they call in so that we don't think that they're, you know, so that we don't get reports that they're hunting on county land.
Do we allow the public, the general public, to hunt on the property?
No, we don't. Not on that park or Farmers or Apple Blossom parks.
And why not?
Primarily safety, because it's just income with use. Right now, Apple Blossom is getting fairly heavy snowshoeing and cross-country skiing traffic, and just public safety.
Okay, and at our last meeting, we had a speaker come to the podium, and their request was that if the DNR wants to take more deer for chronic wasting, that they would give permits for the public to do it and not consume the tax dollars that it takes to hire snipers to have the government do it. So I feel like the DNR has a number of ways that they can do this. They can go to any willing participant and utilize that property. And it feels like a double standard from this board to say the public can't use that land for hunting, but we're going to grant the DNR to go out there and endanger people who could potentially be using the park. So I don't feel like it's a good fit, and the constituents, all but one constituent that has contacted me, has been opposed to this process.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Meyer.
Yeah. I think chronic wasting disease is a serious problem, and from the results that the DNR showed us, while I haven't had any positives on that specific land, in the area around the land there are positives. I think that the longer term danger, I mean, if you think about the pandemic that we are in the middle of right now, it is a disease that transferred from animals to humans. And that is exactly what mad cow disease was. And I think there's a danger to the agricultural community. So I feel like it is really in the best interest of everyone and the public to not let this get out of hand like they've done in Wisconsin. So I do support the efforts on the part of the DNR. Recognizing Commissioner Jacobs' sort of concerns about public safety, the road on the way in there has a gate. So Ms. Qualley, could we post on that gate? I mean, I hike over at the Trempealeau Wildlife Refuge all the time, and they had a season there. And you could see on their website, and you could see in the parking lot that they posted a sign and encouraged anyone who went in to wear orange or not go. And so that's what my husband and I did. So I'm wondering if we could take some kind of a similar precaution, given that the traffic is really low, just for whoever might have gone in there or go in there.
We have in fact laminated signs on both gates in the fall. No, and put no hunting signs up. They were ripped off once, and we put them back again. So yes, it is possible to affix signs if that's what the county commissioners would wish to do at the conclusion of this. And I'll take care of it if that's what everyone wants to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, I support this effort, and I think it's a worthwhile thing to do. And I think that we can take some precautions to mitigate any danger to the public.
This coming back around a second time, I feel like the constituents that were concerned about it first time around thought it came to the board and had been addressed. It passed through our agenda, and I didn't, call them to tell them, it's come back up again. They thought the issue was addressed and behind us. At a very minimum, I'm going to make a motion to table the issue so that the public can be fully aware of what's going on. If they want to do the same thing that Ms. Cordry is doing here tonight, come back in and give us their concerns, have it play out fair. That's my motion. I motion to table the item at this point.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Meyer.
just a point of question. Are you tabling it then till our next meeting?
Can we get it on the next meeting agenda?
Oh, yeah.
That would be fine.
Okay.
All right, so it'd be the next meeting. Do we have a second? I'll second it for discussion. I have some concerns. And I know the gentleman from, or did you have something, Commissioner Kavesi?
No, I didn't
Oh.
think there was discussion on a motion to table.
Oh,
Or is it?
well, I need some information before that meeting then, and I'll have to give it to the. Okay, I'll direct my questions to staff then to get my information. My point is that we had a meeting today, a telephone meeting with the federal legislators about the Army Corps of Engineers. And I feel that this is kind of the same that the DNR is doing. They're coming in, they're kind of, throwing their weight around. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. I want a contract. I don't want this, we talked about liability. We talked about posting. Costs money to send people out with posters and put them up. Any monitoring, any liability. We got the county sheriff sitting here, liability. But I would like a contract from the DNR with us to do this. I mean, we would ask anybody else, private industry, to give us a contract if they're going to do services or something. So I feel it's only appropriate. All right. So I'm sorry. It wasn't discussion. It was a venting. Any other questions? We'll proceed to vote. And the motion is to table until our next meeting. Commissioner Meyer.
Meyer votes aye.
Commissioner Kavesi.
Kavesi votes aye.
Commissioner Olson.
Olson, aye.
Commissioner Jacob.
Jacob, aye.
And Ward votes aye. All right, that carries. Thank you. We will put it on the agenda for next meeting. And I know the gentleman's on from the DNR. He can pass the word on to his management. All right. Item 6.1, approve the community engagement plan that was presented to us. And I did pull that. I've had some citizens concerned. Is this a little bit too late? This approved community engagement plan. I know the board directed the staff to come up with somehow to get information. But some of the members of the community are thinking this is just kind of, oh, okay, they're doing this to appease us. Is it really going to be an open, honest discussion? Is there still discussion about even the $22 million jail? Or is this just a discussion for programs, mental health programs, and the juvenile issue? What are we really trying to?
Well, the direction from the county board, as I understood it, was to come up with options for engaging the community, specifically the members that have voiced their opinion recently about incarceration and looking for alternative ways to address those in both the adult and juvenile populations. It didn't include any change in the plan for the current jail design and construction. That was already voted on and approved previously. So this session, while there are things that could affect the jail in the sense of programs and opportunities to reduce incarceration, right now it wouldn't be discussing the physical plant, if you will. It would be more focused on the programs, services outside maybe the justice system, those kind of things that have been raised by those individuals that we've heard recently. Obviously, there's still an issue with juvenile, how to handle juveniles in a more productive manner. And that's something that I think everybody wants to talk about. No plans have been made in that area. We need to have input from everybody on that issue. There needs to be some discussion about programs that are already in place and services that they may not be aware of or the community may not be aware of, because we do have a lot of those that people might not be engaged with. So, and then we need to hear specifically what the community says. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. It might be, it might have been better placed 4 years ago when we started the discussion of the jail, but it is what it is. And, we're here now. So we're ready to listen, and we're ready to bring this information to the board. Brian Vording from Engage Winona was online. I don't know if he still is.
Yep.
Oh, there he is. Yeah. And we worked closely with him, Karen and I did, and Karen Sanis and some others to kind of put this together so that we have a little bit to accomplish in each section. And maybe Brian could provide a little more information on that. I think it'd be good to kind of flesh out how he wants to approach it. It was a combined effort with Brian kind of leading how he sees it would work given his understanding of the community and his understanding in doing this previously. So, Brian.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah. Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'll speak briefly sort of for the overall intention and happy to take any specific questions. In conversations with staff and in my own sort of following and engaging with the issue too, 3 really distinct needs emerged. I mean, one was for, as Ken framed it really eloquently, a very true and authentic listening session. And there are certainly ways that we can frame that and provide guardrails for that. The listening session will be focused on social programs and criminal justice programs, and certainly the juvenile issue and diversion and alternatives and things. That conversation can be held within its own context and sort of acknowledging that decisions have been made on the larger jail facility already. The second event out of the 3 was to meet a need for information sharing. My sense, and I know it's a sense of a lot of folks, that there's good work happening at the county. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of programs to be involved in that would really benefit from community engagement and collaboration. And that to first have a listening session to really fully hear from the community, and then provide an opportunity to share more in detail a lot of the ongoing active programs and future programs that the county is working on, including the range of rehabilitative programs and diversion programs and restorative justice, and sort of being able to frame how those are already sort of providing value and work within the county. And then the third piece, which is a real benefit to the long-term planning and decision-making, which is working and identifying strategies for how to design ongoing engagement. And that could mean just connections with existing structures like the CJCC, ways of hearing from engaged citizens, and ways of staying connected throughout the process. So there feels like there's this continuity and connection, and there aren't sort of these roller coaster events where there's this big decisions come up and then there's a need for more engagement and then they pass and there's less. That it really sort of balances that process. And that's the overall vision for that. I would be happy to speak to any more specifics or certainly entertain any questions. I do want to, Tova in the public speaking section raised, I think, a really, really important question. And I know I can speak to my half of it. I can't speak to the decision-making half of it because that falls entirely with your authority. But in our half, conversations and our engagement process is agenda-free. It's listening focused. And specifically the vision for that first one is very little information sharing and really just focused on setting those guardrails and those guidelines and then just engaging the community and really listening to, I think, both concerns, listening to issues, and really working on generating ideas. There's a lot of really creative community-based ideas that can be done in collaboration with the county. So from our end anyway, that process is really generative, it's open, it's agenda-free, and then we present really all of the information as it's emerged from these conversations into a report that comes to the county board, and then that's for you to work with in your decision-making process.
Okay. A question, Brian. We're still hamstrung with the COVID parameters and everything. So this will be through a Zoom format?
Yes, Madam Chair, that's a good question. We still very much hamstrung by the COVID pandemic. Much as we, there's a hopeful future around the bend, but we're not there yet. So it's a couple of different formats. So a virtual listening session, quite likely Zoom or something similar. And then part of our engagement process is also knowing that a single session isn't totally accessible for everyone, and we do want to hear from diverse cross sections of the community. So part of the work outside of this larger public session, we'll be doing some smaller conversations with some of the stakeholder groups that are involved, and then also offering just a brief survey and an input way there too. So we can hear from voices of folks who might not necessarily be able to make it to the larger session.
Okay, all right. One party that's not listed anywhere here that I have great concerns about is the Department of Corrections. We can come up with all kinds of innovative, creative solutions and such, but it's all got to be approved through the Department of Corrections and meet their standard and their
It depends on
blessings.
It depends on what programs you're talking about.
Well, I just feel that sometimes I've never had a good feeling about the Department of Corrections. It seems like it comes late to the game. Like your jail's okay for years. Okay, then all of a sudden, nope, it's not. And then all of a sudden, we're going to shut you down. I mean, but yet with little to no, I guess, solutions given throughout that process. And so, and I hear these, I'm sorry, maybe they're horror stories, but I hear from other commissioners and other across the state that Department of Corrections will just come in and they'll say this, and you gotta do it. You don't have a choice. So again, I don't know if you can or if staff can have Department of Corrections engaged early on. I don't know if that's a possibility or not.
I think the focus of this is less on it. Well, back up. It's more on how you keep people out of jail than it is once they're in jail or committed to the process, and that's where the DOC really comes into play. You're talking more about how the building, and the systems and those kind of things that we have, the regulations.
Well, Commissioner or jail guru Steve Buswell obviously has already talked to DOC about some things.
Yeah,
how we could do some things and stuff. So I mean, there again, somebody's already engaged DOC, but the rest of us haven't heard that.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
Chair Ward. Those are more facility based, and so I mean, there's different and the purpose of this is really that first important listening session to hear concerns or hear what the community wants to speak about. But the DOC really only gets involved if people are on probation or on in a facility. So there's so many different options that we've already have existing, and we certainly can look at other ones. And I'm talking about the criminal justice system. But this listening session or the gathering, this is also about social social services, and really, anything that the county might be able to facilitate or to help generate. And so the DOC, yes, you're right, it plays an important part in things, but it doesn't play a part in everything. So.
But with the young lady who made the comments at the open mic session, the word on the street is that we're already talking about a building.
No.
Well, no, that's the word on the street. So that, I mean, I
Well, but that is not
okay.
what's going on.
I don't know how many times, we have to do research to know what options are out there. And whether that research is talking to the DOC or the Health and Human Service, the DHS, whether it's working, with community groups. I mean, we have to do research. So you're going to ask questions like that. But I can guarantee you that we have done, all we're doing is talking about the issue. We haven't even defined really the issue. I think what you're talking about is juveniles. And we haven't even defined what the issue actually is and what's even, haven't even broken that down, to
Well,
understand
the
it.
public needs they need to be apprised of this.
Right.
So
And
thank you.
I just like to say it's something that we've been talking about for years, just like we were talking for years about the jail, but it's a subject that has been a necessary subject to discuss because certain facilities went away, or like the main house, which was a great place for, shouldn't say great, but if you need an alternative placement, it was right in town, and that was no longer. So I mean, and that was, gosh, 15, 20 years ago. So
Yeah, and just to follow up on that before I know you want to jump in, but the building the jail right now and looking at how you could reuse the existing facility provides opportunities, but that doesn't mean you have to take advantage of that because maybe it doesn't fit what ultimately you decide. So right now we're just in the research stage and kind of, it's a good time. This is a very good time for the listening and community engagement for that particular aspect of the criminal justice system, as opposed to maybe the jail, which is a little farther ahead of the curve.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm just putting out there what
Yeah, I understand.
I'm exposed to. Commissioner Jacob.
Well, so a couple questions. First one is, where does the $3,000 of levy money go?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
Well, it says
Budget.
funding is $3,000 levy money.
Yeah, it just, well, I'm not sure if maybe the levy is a little misleading there. Any money that we spend obviously is out of the money we collect in only a few places, right? So one is the levy, and then the others are through fees. And
I'm sorry. I mean,
So-
who's the $3,000
Oh, it's
going
going to
to?
Engage Winona.
Engage Winona.
Yeah, it's a contract
Okay.
to do the work for us. Yeah.
Was this like open to a bid for anyone to bid on, or is it's just kind of being funneled right to?
Right. We picked Engage Winona for a number of reasons. One, they're familiar with the county, they're familiar with the community, they're familiar with the issues. They've done similar things before. And based on our procurement policy, anything, I think it's under 25,000, doesn't need to have multiple quotes. So for $3,000, it was based on those criteria. It was something we went to Brian first. Had maybe they've been too busy or something, we would have branched out, maybe looked around for someone else. But as far as our understanding of what we wanted to do and what's available in the community, it made sense to get a request from them.
Okay, and I would be more comfortable if it was Engage Winona County, but it's Engage Winona, right?
Oh, what's the name of the?
Well, I mean, I gotta come back to who I represent.
Yeah, I got you.
I represent 16 precincts. Not one of them is in the city of Winona, and I haven't seen Brian Boarding at Alba or Altura or Rolling Stone or at any of those. And so, I mean, it's going to be all the constituents that are going to pay the $3,000, and it's going to be apparently the city of Winona that's going to determine where the direction of things.
Well, I wouldn't put the two together, but I think that the point is that outreach to the entire county is important. And I think we did talk about that with Brian, that this isn't even though it's in, Winona has a large population, it's a county process, whether it's juveniles, inmates, adult inmates, or social justice programs. We cover the county. So, I mean, maybe Brian wants to change the name of the organization, but the important thing is that he reaches out to those places and that they have an opportunity. One of the nice things about the Zoom meetings is, as long as people have access to know that the meetings are there, they can actually participate for the most part. There are some challenges with broadband, but for the most part, they'll have access. They won't have to drive it, half hour in or 45 minutes. And so they should be able to participate as long as we reach out to them.
I think that concludes my questions.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the community engagement plan.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Olson to approve the community engagement plan.
Meyer will second.
Okay, Meyer was second. Any further discussion?
Karen Sanis, did you want to say something about this? She was
Karen?
unmuted.
Yes, if I- yes,
your box
yes.
was lit up at one time.
Yes, if I could, I tried and I think somebody muted me. It must have been Heidi, but no, thank you. Thank you very much for offering me to just speak quick. And I also am very, very interested in having these listening sessions. Why we have federal legislation that is sitting out there. February of 2018, the Families First Prevention and Services Act. And we have a great opportunity for our community to build a prevention and early intervention system within our county and draw down federal funding for those services to divert kids from going into out-of-home placement. And so I am very interested to begin discussions with our communities to listen to their ideas regarding services they would like to see, how they would like to see services brought into the community, what services they feel would be beneficial and culturally appropriate. So that is just something that I wanted to add. So I am very, very supportive of this, and I really am anxious to get started with this. So thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, let's proceed to vote. Roll call, Commissioner Meyer,
Meyer votes aye.
Commissioner Kavesi,
Kavesi votes aye.
Commissioner Olson,
Olson, aye.
Commissioner Jacob,
Jacob, aye.
Commissioner Ward will vote aye. And we will keep close tabs on this process, Mr. Verding. I think just what Karen Sanis said here, I think there's a lot of homework that needs to be done to, to let people know what these programs are and how they work. So I guess that's on you. All right, thank you. Well, that was approved. Thank you. Moving on then into our general business 7.1, acknowledge completion of the county administrator performance review. And we did the annual review in a closed session last week. And the annual performance review on the county administrator per the employment agreement was conducted pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05 subdivision 3A. The findings of the review indicate performance meets or exceeds expectations. And the nice thing about it right now, there's no funding required for that report.
That's next week.
That's next week. All right. No, we did a performance review, and that's part of our process, and it went very well. We do want to thank Deb. What's the last name?
Beckman.
Yeah, Deb Beckman for helping us. She is very professional and helps lead us through that and does a very nice job, and we appreciate her help in doing that. Moving on then, 7.2, receive monthly finance budget update. Pat, are you with us?
Yep.
I see us.
I'm
There you are.
going to provide the December update. Beginning cash in the general fund started at 14.7 million. Actual revenues were 2.3 million. Actual expenses were 2.7. Ending cash was 14.3. For the whole year, it was cash started out at 13.4. Actual revenues were 22.5 and actual expenses were 21.6. Ending cash was 14.3. The variance is $913,000 compared to last year, a negative 76 in the general fund. For all the funds, it was a 1.4 compared to a negative 2.0. I do want to point out that Human Services at this point has 55 cents in the fund as of 12/31. And that includes a fund transfer from the general fund to Human Services of $597,000. Some of the things that led up to the transfer or the negative amount in Human Services was children out of home placement of about 250,000, children residential over about by 150,000, independent living 18 to 21 over by about 75,000, and then overall waivers were down about 270,000. Any questions?
Madam Chair, can I provide some information regarding
Yeah,
my budget?
is that Karen?
Yes, this is Karen
Yes.
Sanis.
Please,
So-
your numbers are alarming.
It's concerning, yes, very concerning. So that is why I wanted to be here tonight to be able to speak to that. Number one, we had about $75,000 that was carryover from billing last year. The billing was not due to Human Services or our finance department. This was billing issues within the state of Minnesota. One of our provider agencies had used their national provider index number instead of their universal provider index number, which caused us not to be able to recapture some Rule 5 funding. So we had to reverse all of that billing, and it ended up coming back into from 2019 into our 2020. Some of the out-of-home placement costs that we incurred with the courts being shut down for about 2.5 months, I believe it was. Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, but we were unable to return children home. We were unable to complete adoptions in order to get some children home. So children stayed in out-of-home placement longer than necessary just due to the courts being shut down due to COVID. Our over 65 and our under 65 waivers, we did lose revenues in those areas just because of the lack of case management services that they were able to do. A lot of our provider agencies provide face-to-face contact with clients, like our legacies, our home and community options, our ORC. And they, being that they were shut down, there was no need for service coordination at that point. That is how we generate our revenues within Health and Human Services for our over and under 65 waivers. So those are some of the losses. Also, we are able to bill for travel time with those waivers. All that travel time ended when the waivers went into place for face-to-face contacts being through electronic, either phone or electronic face-to-face contacts or telephone. So there is a lot of concern there. We're keeping an eye on it. Pat and I are discussing my budget monthly. The extended foster care that was on me. We just didn't project accurately for the number of children that we were going to have in out-of-home placement or in our extended foster care, and did not accurately reflect that in my budget. So being it was my first full year of budgeting, I've learned a lot, and so we're going to be moving forward this year, and I'm working well with our finance department and keeping Mr. Fritz appraised of different areas that may be of concern. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Jacob had a question.
Yeah, so Pat, with the $590,000 transfer, what were the total transfers for the year then to the department? You're muted. You're still muted.
You went back on mute, Pat. Sorry.
Okay. That was the transfer from general fund to human service, the 597,000.
Is that the total for the year then?
Yeah, we always true up at the end of the year.
Yep. At the end of the year, we actually do the transfer.
Okay, and there's 55 cents still to spend however you want. Is that,
Yep,
All in one place.
because everything's rounded in whole dollars.
well, 590, yeah, that is alarming, but given where we've come from in the past, I think that department deserves good commendations for coming from where they've been to really paying attention to doing a great job with the service, but also collecting the revenues it takes to pay for it. So I'm happy to see that.
I do have a question though, because Karen even said it herself. It seems like there was a uptick because of COVID. Now we had a whole bunch of money. So do we still have a pot of money that we can
Yeah,
offset some of that with COVID dollars?
yeah, I was going to mention this so it's complicated, but we did receive money that for COVID expenses that went right to our bottom line, our surplus.
Right.
So even though we transferred $500,000 out, we added probably about, I think I want to say about $800 some thousand to the surplus based on wages and benefits that were diverted to COVID work rather than the work that they initially would do. So, if we're working on COVID today, we kept track of that, and then that went in with that CARES money, and so the county did receive that. That is reflected in the fund surplus, not in the so much in the revenue expenses, but in the fund surplus. The other thing is that the bill that Congress is working on right now, the $1.9 trillion bill, whatever you think about that, there's a provision in there for local governments to receive additional money. And this time, at least the way the bill is structured right now, there's a good chance that you can use it for lost revenue. So something like the $250,000 that Pat and Karen mentioned that we lost because we couldn't do certain things, that's revenue we lost, and that might be recapturable. Now the bill isn't finished and it's still in flux and they're negotiating, and so who knows? But there's a possibility we could receive some more money. So that, to answer your question, it's kind of two-part, and it's not all certain. So
Okay. All right. Yeah, leave it to the federal government.
yeah, there's a lot of things we could talk about with the CARES.
Yeah, there's a lot in that bill.
Yeah, we're hoping that if that bill does come through, that there'll be money again to do things to affect, the improve the economic situation of county businesses, residents, and so forth.
Okay.
But we don't know yet. So.
Right. Okay. All right. Pat, back to you.
If there's no more questions in this document, we'll go to the next document, which is the summary cash flow. Summary cash flow started at 16.5. Actual revenues were 44.9. Actual expenses were 43.5. Ending cash is 18 million. Variance is the -1 compared to the -2 million as the previous document. Any questions on this one? Otherwise, we'll go to the summary budget for December. We're 100% of the way through the year. And you can, as you look through the document, there's several areas where we were up or down on expenses and revenues. And one of the things that it does show is that on some of the revenues, we were actually up also, even though some of our expenses were also up. So, I think we're trying to do our best job to collect all the revenues where we can get those revenues. Also want to point it out, the interest this year, we budgeted 290,000. Interest earned was 338,000. So it was above the amount that we had budgeted. But I think next year that may be different, because talking with Sandra when we're putting our audit together right now, I had a question because it looked like the interest that we were earning from December and we're accruing in our audit is a lot lower than the previous year. And she stated that rates are so much lower than previously. And so I think our interest probably will be down next year. Any questions on this document? If not, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Pat. Committee report communications. Commissioner Meyer, you had a board action?
Yeah, on second thought, I think I'm fine. So nothing.
Okay. All right. Did anybody have anything else? Something came to mind. Quick thing. Now there's more COVID dollars for small businesses, like 20 employees and less. Will Winona County get money for that? Or is that tied to the 1.9?
Not aware of which one you're talking about. I mean, which?
It's something that was on the national news. I guess it's for the real small employers, 20.
It's got to be at that 1.9.
The PPP.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that
It's
tied in
already
the?
out there. It's already out.
But did Winona County get it?
No.
No. So,
we didn't, no.
so how do people, get information on that? I guess is the question. I mean, we helped a lot of businesses with these other funds, and now.
Go to your local bank. I know merchants have.
The banks have it.
They've reached out to a lot of contractors.
Okay, well, it was specifically for very small, 20 employees or less, is what I was hearing and stuff.
Yeah,
Okay,
but go to the local bank.
okay, go to your local bank if you're a real small business. All right. Getting calls too. Any idea on the COVID vaccinations?
In terms of,
Winona County,
well.
not
we-
the world.
we-
Winona
we-
County. Bring it down a little.
Well,
Yeah, we just got a bunch of doses.
yeah, we received about 1,000 doses this week. And then, of course, with the snow and the weather down in Texas or in the southern United States, our shipments are delayed, but we will be receiving more. We're anticipating that we're going to continue to see higher levels of vaccine coming in, or we're hopeful anyway. Some sticking points were, they had opened up like some of the Walmarts and some of the pharmacy programs. And it just so happened the same week that they opened those pharmacy programs, our allocation went down by almost the same number of doses that were given to the pharmacies. So it was just they say it's a coincidence. I think it's just basic math, but what they are indicating is that we should start seeing more and more vaccines coming in. Be patient. They just said that anybody and everybody that wants a vaccine should be able to have it by July. We have opened up a phone line to be able to take people's information that are over the age of 65. One of the pieces that is frustrating about the vaccine program is that most of the registration is online. So that really hinders our over 65 population in order to be able to register for their vaccine.
But they can call the county and we'll help them.
Right, there is that number. Karen, a question I've been asked, if you registered a couple weeks ago, do you have to continually re-register, or are you on the registry if you did it once and got a confirmation?
If you've registered, you're on the list, and we will start reaching out to you as soon as possible. We are also establishing a list of individuals that are homebound, or that it would be very taxing for them to come to a vaccination site to get their vaccine. So we are looking at, we have begun doing some homebound individuals with our leftover doses. Like if somebody doesn't show up for their vaccine at a vaccine clinic, we will contact somebody that is in one of those in a homebound situation to be able to vaccinate them. So we're doing everything we can. We are set. We are ready. As soon as we get the vaccine, we can be we could be running vaccine clinics 7 days a week if we wanted to. So we have the infrastructure and we have the ability with everybody stepping up. I'm just so impressed with the collaboration with everybody between, the city of Winona, the fire department, our EMSs, volunteers from the community. We have nurses coming out of retirement. It's just been pretty amazing, the outreach that we've had for assistance for all of this. So we're hopeful that we will start seeing increased doses of vaccine coming our way. So,
okay. You said a sticking point. Do we have enough needles?
yes, at this point we have enough needles. So,
we just need vaccine. We have the infrastructure in place.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
My suggestion is contact Amazon. They seem to be delivering almost anything to my front door within days. So
yeah,
contact Amazon. All right, thank you, Karen. Yes, I know that
Yes.
the community is doing an awesome, all the workers and everything doing an awesome thing. People just do have to realize that there is not vaccine out there. It's coming. It behooves me that it's taking this long when they were, making it. And you see the little bottles on the production line. They're slowly coming. All right.
Yes.
Anything else to come before the Winona County Board this evening?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jacobs, seconded by Commissioner Olson to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Hi,
Opposed, nay. Adjourn. Thank you.
have a good evening.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.